Okay, John Bryan, we're back for another episode of your podcast. How are you doing this fine day?
I am doing extremely well. Nothing horrible has happened, and a lot of things good have happened today. How about you?
You know, I cannot complain. And as I tell everybody, that's good because A, it's a sin, and B, nobody really cares. So I'm doing great. Life is awesome. And let's see, you had a great phrase a couple episodes ago that just struck me. The butcher's better than a butcher's dog. I've heard the phrase that I'm busier than a one-armed paper hanger.
Yes,
And,
I've heard that one.
Which is good because I love to be busy. I'd be bored, stiff, and anyway. I want to talk today, John, coming off of the conversations we've had in the last couple of episodes, I really want to encourage people to go back to, but talking about today's stewardship mindset, because we've talked about mindset over the last couple of episodes in a couple of different ways, but this one's really particular in having a stewardship mindset when it comes to the area of finances and life and things. So unpack that for us. What do you mean when you talk about a stewardship mindset?
Well, I started to say if you've been given monetary assets, and I realize that a lot of people haven't been given a single thing. They've earned everything. So I want to make that distinction. So I don't want to say if you've been given, but if you have. Mm-hmm. You've been blessed with based on either someone giving it to you, or you've earned a great deal of money. If you've been blessed in that way, it's important, I think, for your own well-being that you use those resources in a way that best reflects your values. And we talked directly about how to determine your values in chapter 2 of Building Your Life, Not a Portfolio. In that book, and we talk with our clients a great deal about what their values are and truly understanding them, because very few, like in my experience, greater than 90% of people that I have spoken with have truly explored what their values really are. And having values makes your decisions easier. Roy Disney quoted famously, "It's not hard to make decisions once you know what your values are." And I found that to be very true. Because in the end of the day, when we are ready to meet our maker, money, resources don't mean much. They're a fading memory. What matters is your relationships and your legacy. So that stewardship of how you've handled things throughout your life becomes extremely important. The problem is that, when we're 30, 40, 50, we're not thinking about the ultimate thing, the two things that are going to happen: death and taxes, right?
Right.
And it's okay to talk and think about the end of our lives, because that's important. And that's what our values should, generally speaking, center around. Is once we're gone, what difference have we made?
Yeah, and what difference have we made, and what are the relationships like? Because I've heard of the stories of the people who've accumulated massive wealth. We talked about it on the last episode. Is that okay or not? Yes, but people who've accumulated wealth at the expense of family relationships, and when they die, all they get is arguments within the family all over money, versus because they haven't built a life. They built a great portfolio, but they didn't have a life. And that's what you help people do is understand those values of building it up to that. If you're blessed and you have a great pot of money when you die, your family's not fighting over it because you've got those relationships built. And hopefully you've passed down this stewardship mindset to your kids, because one of the worst things that you could ever do is inherit your kids a bunch of money that they're not ready to handle.
That's very true as well, which I'm sure we could all, or most of us could come up with examples of that, right?
Yes.
If nothing else, they've hit the news, unfortunately, right?
Yes, very much so. So how would you counsel somebody to think through, or how do you come up with a stewardship mindset? Because it's really different than what we're taught. It's different than what we see on TVs, movies, and things. What does it mean to have a stewardship mindset, and how would somebody start moving in that direction?
Well, once you've determined your values, right? And I think we talked about this a little bit before in a previous episode too. The people that we lie to most often are ourselves.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that people understand that it's okay to enjoy your wealth yourself. If you've earned that wealth, you've been given that wealth, whatever, that's okay. But what are your values? And I've talked to people who, and I say, I found out really their value was not family. And that was really interesting to me because my family's like big. It's way up there on my value set.
Yep.
Theirs was not. And that's okay because we're all different. And who am I to judge what your value should be? I'm not, and I'm not going to do that. And that's why it's important when you're talking to somebody about determining your values, you have somebody that's not judgmental and they're not going to impose their value set on you.
Right.
So if family is not your value, okay, what is? And why is that your value? Maybe it's saving the whales. It's some environmental cause. I have clients that is their real main value. And the reason for that is, frankly, unfortunately, they don't have family.
Right.
So usually that's the reason why family's not important is, hey, I'm kind of alone in this world, which I think is unfortunate, but that's just the way they are. And they don't think that that's a bad thing for them. And it's not for them. But that's another thing we talk about in the book is the snowflake theory. And based on our different vantage points that have happened throughout our lives from the very beginning, from the day that we're born, we experience life differently. Different things happen, and that impacts our values.
Yeah, and
so first determining those values, then developing a plan around those values to accomplish goals that best steward your money. So your resources are used in a way that you find valuable in the world.
And see that, and that makes total sense. And I love the way you put it there of making a contribution and using your value system. Your values are not just for accumulating money. It's about how you live. And hence your book, right? Build a life, not a portfolio. You want to build a life. And these questions that you ask your clients and the way you get to know them is building that mindset of this is who I am and who I want to be. And I'm going to use the money that I get to facilitate that, whether it's saving the whales or digging, wells in Africa for kids. Yep. Doesn't matter. What is it that you are wanting to do? Because it all takes money, right? And that's where you and your team at Guardian Rock Wealth come in, because you understand how to finesse money, how to invest it in different ways, how to set it up for lifestyle. And some people want to accumulate that nest egg, have a stewardship mindset for the long term because they want to give it to their kids. Others want to give it all away now. That's okay. Those are all moral decisions, right? Yep. It just depends on what you're wanting to do. And what you can do, John, obviously at Guardian Rock Wealth, is help somebody understand their values, have that what we call that stewardship mindset. What are you doing with the money you've got, the resources you have? Because it might not be money, it might be real estate. How do you put it all together and use it to fulfill your values and your objectives? And the cool thing is that's different for every client. That's why your job must be pretty fun.
It is. It's always interesting. There's always something new. As long as you're dealing with people, there's going to be things there. So.
Yes. My job would be really easy if it weren't for people, So we say, then I said that one time and a computer programmer looked at me and said, not so much. So I got put in my place really fast. But mindset, we talked about that, I think, 4 episodes in a row now in a different variety, different way, different angle. And you talk about this in your book, at least in the first 3 chapters. So I want to encourage people to get a copy of your book, John. It's Build a Life, Not a Portfolio. John Browning, you can get it on Amazon. It's the #1 Amazon best-selling book, or you can get it from John. Just go to guardianrockwealth.com and reach out to him. Tell him you want a free copy of his book. And while you're there, tell him you want a free Zoom conversation with him as well, because he doesn't charge for that. And he'll talk to you about mindset and how to build a life we're in a new year now, 2021, and a lot of things changed in 2020. But John and his team can help you make sense of them and know how to make the future a lot better, right?
That's right. And, in 2020, I think a lot of people are glad to say goodbye to 2020. But I think a lot of people, unfortunately, got to the point where they were despairing.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to be anybody that's listening to this podcast. So another thing, I'm not going to sell you anything. If you want to have a conversation with me, because there's always answers out there. And I don't really care if you don't think you have a lot of assets and that I wouldn't be interested. I'm not going to try and sell you anything. I'm going to be your advocate. I'm going to provide you with some value. And I'm going to suggest some ways that you might be able to switch things around in 2021. So please do reach out. I'd love to talk to you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So we'll just end right there. John Browning, thank you so much. GuardianRockWealth.com. Reach out to John Browning and have one of those conversations. John, we'll talk to you again next week, I guess.
All right. Sounds good. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.